voice acting is my type of thing or so. But apparently, Alte Ori, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, made a video so saying, how did voice acting become this? I'd be curious to see what this is. I don't know what's it about, but you piqued my interest though. I'd be very curious to see what this is about, because it's about voice acting.
So this is going to be a bit of an essay video, kind of in response to this creator and other people that might hold his viewpoint. And I just want to say, I actually like talking about topics like this. I think it's important for people to be able to express themselves, and I know we're not all going to see things the same way or agree on everything. That's fine. Just wanted to add my perspective to this whole voice actor and characters looking like they're voice actors conversation. Maybe you'll disagree with me, maybe you won't, but at least there'll be a discussion, because I think it is very much needed. So yeah, just sit back and relax, I guess. And if you're watching on screen, there's a variety of game footage rolling so your eyes have something to do while you listen.
There are people saying it's stupid to think you have to be a black person to play a black character. And they might be right. Technically, any role could be played by any actor. But they can't, because of something that's even stupider. The stupid fact that the arts are being defunded on a national scale, and young creatives of color are specifically set up to fail. The stupid deadlines that have anime
Man, dude, jeez. Already that first sentence.
Producers and casting directors so overwhelmed, for most shows, auditions aren't even held. But when they try to fix it with equitable casting, some people call it stupid while ignoring all of these things. If we created an industry where all talent was created equal, we could get to a place where all types of actors played all types of people. In the meantime, there are decades of harm that well-meaning people are trying to undo. So if what you care about is talent, you should support equitable casting too. Unless you pirate all your anime and sub and you're just complaining, because that would be a stupid thing.
The first thing I want to do is commend this guy on one thing. His eyebrows. They've got their own personality, kind of like Asmongold's. That's an interesting talent in and of itself. I don't know how people do that while they speak. They're incredibly expressive.
True.
That's one thing I'd like to say. Kind of reminds me of my cousin, because he kind of does the same thing. But anyway, on to the other thing before I get into the main argument. He said all talent being created equal. I'll go back to the spot where he said that.
Stupid while ignoring all of these things. If we created an industry where all talent was created equal, we could get to a place where all types of actors played all types of people.
Okay, so I don't think that's what he really meant, because if you just leave it at face value, that's not true. All talent is not created equally.
That's true.
There's no way to have that happen. There's a reason why we have A-list actors, B-list actors, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you have some voice actors that are completely incredible, that have like a wide variety of ranges of voices that you can't even tell them apart. Or you're just like, whoa, you're telling me this voice actor voiced this character in this game, or this character voiced that character in that show? That's crazy. I would have never noticed, you know?
Some people have put in years of work, more experience, more training, and have perfected their craft at a level that others simply have not. That doesn't mean new voices don't deserve a shot, but pretending everyone is on the same level, at the risk of sounding insensitive, that's not based in reality. For example, there is no way in hell, as much as I love Will, even though he has messed up his life royally, I still like him as an actor, but I am nowhere near delusional enough to look at him and put him on the same league as someone like Morgan Freeman. They are just not even in the same ballpark in terms of talent or experience in terms of acting. Also, not everyone can sound like Morgan Freeman. He has a natural talent.
Man, Morgan Freeman's voice is going to be a one of a kind. I swear to God, I don't think we're ever going to get a voice like him. It's going to be such a long time until we get a natural voice of him.
And a naturally rich voice. So does James Earl Jones. There can only be one James Earl Jones. There can only be one Morgan Freeman. As a matter of fact, his voice alone has become iconic because of years of mastery, timing, and performance that set him apart from everybody. That's why people pay top dollar for certain voices and performances, and that has nothing to do with equity. It's about the uniqueness and polish that comes with talent and experience, or just sometimes natural gifts that you may have. So let's go back to this content creator's argument. This particular argument seems to be that Black actors are being systemically shut out of anime voice acting, and that equitable casting is the only way to fix it.
No, the problem is for you to be saying that or so. Remember what ProZD said and like all these other VA people, you know, because like the most predominant you know, skin color or so, because we're gonna do the skin color thing, right? Because that's what they thought or so, right? If it's mostly all the skin color of all the characters in anime or so, right, are mostly pale and white. So it's like, so if we're gonna do that weird, like, you know, because that's what they were saying, is like, oh, you know, people should voice act, you know, their skin color, you know, blah 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 blah, you know. And I'm like, no, it should be how good and how talented you are with your voice acting, you know. How is your voice? Does your voice fit the character?
Problem is, the way he's pitching this is kind of misleading and honestly kind of dishonest. What makes it a little more shaky is that the conversation around equitable casting always seems to flare up specifically when it's about non-Black actors voicing Black actors. You don't really hear the same outrage when Black actors voice characters of other races or other ethnicities, I'd rather say, which makes the whole thing feel one-sided, which is something that people have been recently calling out. First thing, anime is a Japanese art form.
Yeah.
Most anime characters are Japanese, which means that there just aren't that many Black roles to begin with. Naturally, in a Japanese industry, Japanese actors are going to be chosen first, even if they're doing it for the English dubs, because that's their cultural foundation. So when the creator claims that people are overlooking the real issues or missing the nuance of what's going on behind the scenes, he's actually overlooking the biggest fact of all. Anime, which is what he said, is primarily created by and for Japanese people, and casting reflects that. And even though the comment that he's responding to referred to animated characters, he explicitly says anime, which is why I'm repeating that and specifically speaking about anime.
So everyone has a problem with racism, but we start sorting by colors anyways. It's just like it was like during this time, or I forgot when it was, during this time or so, during the whole VA shit or so, where like literally people were like saying like, oh, you can't voice act this character because you're white. It should be a dark-skinned character who should voice this character. And I'm just kind of like, no, they chose that voice actress because, number one, that specific voice actress fits the character. We're not talking about skin tone color whatsoever. Like, it just literally makes no sense for that to happen. And then this person is like saying like, to be honest, I'm gonna be honest with you, this person is just literally just spitting nonsense. That's why it just makes, for me, it literally makes no sense to me, or whatever this person's speaking. By the way, when he was talking about Black characters, he has Yoruichi from Bleach, who is a tan Japanese cat girl soul reaper. That's the farthest thing from Black. But you know the funny thing about it, the original voice actress is actually a white woman who actually voice acts her.
As it pertains to this first part of the point being made.
The stupid deadlines that have anime producers and casting directors so overwhelmed, for most shows, auditions aren't even held.
Another thing I want to add.
What do you mean? What do you mean they're not held? What are you talking about? Yes, they do. Yes, what? And what source did you get that from?
That is, the issue is not widespread exclusion so much as the nature of the source material, in this case anyway. As a matter of fact, and maybe I'm leaving some room open that I might be wrong, I don't see any publicly available census or statistical proof that Black voice actors are barred from participating in anime dubs. What we do have is a long history of Black talent contributing meaningfully to the medium. For decades, Black voice actors have played major roles in anime and beyond anime. Bo Billingsley is the person who is the voice behind Jet Black in Cowboy Bebop, one of the most iconic anime dubs of all time.
I'll be honest with you, Cowboy Bebop has some really good English VAs. Fucking Osmosis Jones? Damn, dude. That's a name I have not Samurai Jack, of course, Samurai Jack, Static Shock. Yeah, I know a lot. I know a good majority of these people, so
Phil Lamar, Cree Summer, and Kevin Michael Richardson are household names whose work spans animation broadly, shaping generations of viewers. More recently, Zeno Robinson has voiced Hawks in My Hero Academia, Nairis Quinones has given performances in 86 and Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro, and AJ Beckles has starred as Takemichi in Hokyo Revengers. Even Naruto Shippuden and Bleach feature black actors like Katero Colbert, who voiced Killer Bee, and Oetsu respectively. And yeah, these examples kind of dismantle the whole claim that black actors have been absent or somehow excluded. They've been here, working and succeeding, even if their contributions are not always celebrated loudly or people know about them or not. Another thing worth pointing out,
because I think this person's complaining or so is like the characters are not like the main protagonist, I guess, question mark. I don't know, to be honest. I feel like that's what I'm like thinking of what this person is saying.
Is how some of the non-white characters who now voice roles that used to be played by white actors or others stepped into those positions only after people started taking issue with it. For years, nobody complained when those same characters were voiced by non-black or non-minority actors. Yeah. It was just accepted as normal because the characters were the thing that was important. But once the criticism started coming in, or for whatever reason things started to change, studios made space and brought in new talent to take over those roles, and they've been doing that for a while now. And that in of itself is important to acknowledge. The very fact that those doors were open proves that the opportunity does and has existed.
People complaining about it clearly aren't doing their research and just talking out of their asses. Yeah, they think like black actors don't exist apparently, even though they've been there for such a long time, you know?
The industry were as closed off as some people are claiming. Those changes wouldn't have happened at all. Instead,
this is probably like one of the reasons why I don't really personally follow like the English voice acting scene whatsoever. Like I really don't. Take care, Tony. Be safe, hun. Thank you for coming by as always. Very much appreciate yourself, hun. You take care, you be safe. So in short, they want more Boondocks. Boondocks animations are inspired by anime. I guess so. I guess that's what they want in general. Like, fuck, dude. You're good as guess as mine, to be honest. Like, they're just talking about a bunch of nonsense or so about being like, oh, you know, they're taking, you know, I guess they're like, he's trying to say like they're oppressed and whatnot, and they're like literally saying like, oh, you know, they're basically ignoring all of these issues that basically, you know, the black people have to suffer through, all of this stuff that's up here, you know? And it's like, bro, everyone is suffering through hardship, okay?
Actual progress, and people who are non-white being handed roles that once weren't available to them. That's not evidence of a system designed to shut them out, though. It's actually the complete opposite. So the creator also links cuts to arts education to systemic exclusion of young creators.
Arts, humanities are the first on the chopping block for U.S. state governments faces deficits. Oh, as in like they're getting rid of like art classes or something. I have no fucking idea. You're good as guess as mine. I have no idea what this is. That's why I'm just kind of like, I'm like this. That's why I kind of like tapped out or so on this video, and I'm just kind of like, what is this person talking about? What?
Creators of color, as he says. Another thing people really need to stop doing is throwing around phrases like creators of color or people of color. It's basically just a dressed up way of saying colored people. Grammatically, it's the same exact construction. You're just flipping the order of the words. In English, dirty dog means the same.
What they mean by fuck, I can't pronounce that fucking word. Studies is SJW indoctrination. I have no idea what that is, to be honest.
Thing as a dog that's dirty. If you say redheaded person or person of red hair or person with red head, you're still pointing out the very same idea. It's a person with red hair. The connotation doesn't magically disappear just because you rearrange the exact same words. So when he and other people use people of color as if it's some kind of progressive phrase, it's still carrying the exact same structure and weight as the term that it supposedly replaces, i.e. it's literally the same thing. Anyway, moving on.
arts are being defunded on a national scale, and young...
I will say that while it's true that funding for the arts in the US may face constant threat, tying this directly to anime voice acting is a flying leap in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like tapped out of it when the moment this person was talking about this stuff. I was just kind of like, I don't even want to listen to this person. I was like, I just don't want to listen to this person. This person is just spitting nonsense at this point.
Anime dubbing operates under its own industry standards, and there's no evidence that these state funding issues deliberately target or hinder Black participation in that specific sector. This kind of rhetorical move kind of feels like fear-mongering. You're using this broad systemic concern to inflate a more narrow debatable point. And I think it's also important to clarify what equitable casting means. Equity in casting doesn't mean actors must only voice characters who look like them.
Yeah.
I don't know where people got this from, and that seems to be what people are arguing for. At least
well, that's what happening with ProZD and those other voice actors and a bunch of random Twitter people. Like, honestly, people need to stop listening to anybody like any of those crazy people on Twitter anyway. So, like, honestly, it's so dumb. Like, I don't know when you guys started changing to the point where you guys started listening to Twitter. Out of all places, Twitter. Come on. I'm tired of the whole oppression Olympics. These types of people try to pull off. That's why I just kind of like zone out when they speak, because when they start bringing in some nonsense stuff that makes literally no sense, I just don't. I just really don't pay attention. Like, I really don't.
That's what it ends up alluding to in the end. As a matter of fact, voice acting has historically thrived on range. Actors playing characters far outside their own identity because you're acting with your voice. Equity means ensuring opportunities are accessible across the board and that characters who are non-white, when they exist, are portrayed authentically when it matters. Insisting that only Black actors can play Black characters or that anime itself is rigged against Black voices is simply not true because reality proves otherwise. In reality, this entire conversation shouldn't be about exclusion, but about inclusion. Black voice actors have long since been a part of anime dubbing. Cowboy Bebop, My Hero Academia, just like I mentioned before.
Samurai Jack was voiced by a Black guy and he freaking nailed it. Yeah, they already showed it, or so they already showed the voice actor for it. Don't listen to Ko, continue to get enlightenment from woke X. You know you're retarded, you know that, right?
And the path forward isn't to constantly try to invent a crisis that doesn't exist, but to amplify the talented voices that already do exist, and or to create more roles that reflect diverse audiences, and to actually continue.
Does authentic casting apples to talking trains? Casting what? Casting apples to talking trains? What do you mean by that?
Breaking down barriers where they actually do exist. The truth is, anime voice acting has always had room for Black talent, and Black voice actors have proved themselves repeatedly. If the goal is fairness and recognizing talent, then the answer isn't to just misrepresent the industry, but to highlight these successes and build from them. The other issue is that it can come across, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but it does kind of come across as if this content
applies to talking trains. What do you mean to talking to trains? What does that have to do with this? That's what I'm trying to understand. I don't understand what you're talking about. As in, like, talking to trains. What do you mean by talking to trains? Featuring X, Blue Sky is the gospel. Anyways, back to it. Where was I at? I don't remember, to be honest, because someone redeemed something. Anyways, yeah, we'll just
creator is acting in bad faith, or it can be construed that way.
I already lost my train of thought already, so.
Not necessarily only from the video itself, but particularly from his responses to viewer comments. Here's an example. So one commenter offered a reasonable, widely held perspective and said, "I don't care about the race. I just believe they choose the voice that matches the character's personality, or the voice just gives the character life." And from what I can see, this isn't an antagonistic remark. The person is simply affirming that performance and
that's how VA is supposed to work. You give the character, if the person fits the character or the role correctly, then you chose the right character. or if the person fits the character, like fits in their shoes, and gives it life or so, that basically you have your right character. Literally not, not the other way around where the race, oh, is this person white or is this person black? Is this person, yellow or whatever, purple, green, blue, or whatever? I don't give a fuck, to be honest. That shouldn't matter. It matters in the voice. Does the voice fit the character? Yes or no? That's it.
Character fit matter more than racial identity in voice acting. The creator's reply was, respectfully, this isn't about your feelings. It's about barriers in the industry that are well documented and objectively exist. And
this person's retarded. Legit, straight up. Legit, straight up. This person is just straight up retarded.
This answer is totally dismissing the commenter's point outright. Instead of engaging with the person and with the idea that voice acting should prioritize talent and character portrayal, which it has always done, he reframes the discussion in purely racial terms. And the irony is that by insisting the debate has nothing to do with the individual's perspectives, he removes the possibility of having a further discussion to sit down with this person, and it replaces it with this unilateral assertion of objective barriers, which he never substantiates with verifiable data specific to anime dubbing. I mean, that's one thing. It's even worse if we're speaking about America.
This is why literally when it comes to, like, when I say Western side, I say American. The American VA industry is just a joke at this point, I understand there's some good voice actors. It's like very few in between, right? But like it's honestly generally like a fucking joke. Like, it's a joke to compare to the rest of the VA industry across the other side of the world,
American animation.
Because you want to know something on top of that? At least like more recently or so, when it comes to like certain games in general, they started going after, like, they started hiring people like in, like, what is it, in Europe or so, when it comes to like voice acting. They don't even bother hiring, like, they're not really like out looking for the American side of voice acting, because they completely damaged their own image of what recently just happened in the past year or so with the whole AI voice acting, quotation marks, protecting themselves from AI, but it was far more deeper than meets the eye.
The other comments under the same video claims that, this one right here, they really want to have white people either minstrel a black character voice or have it that the black character seen intelligent, have it that the black character, I guess, is seen as intelligent or seems intelligent.
I don't even know when it started to become a joke, to be honest.
Proper. This isn't only hostile towards white people, it's kind of dishonest as well. No studio is sitting in casting meetings plotting how to make black characters sound like stereotypes or saying that intelligence only comes...
Not all European VAs are the same, remember that. Remember, all VAs are not the same.
...across through proper English.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, let's leave the door open that it's a possibility. There's no evidence of that, though. And that's often a straw man argument meant to stir anger and rage bait more than it's a reflection of reality. The bigger issue here is how this way of thinking sets up a no-win situation. Because if a black character speaks with a regular Northern American, no exaggerated black accent, as TikTok calls it, or hood slang, as people call it, no forced accent or whatever, suddenly critics are saying, oh, they're being whitewashed. But if the same style of speech comes out of a white actor's mouth, those same critics will claim the actor or the person is acting black, which I don't even understand why people even use that terminology. It's very...
Acting black? Man, this is crazy, to be honest. You hear something new every single day, to be honest.
Ignorant, in my opinion, and it's actually racist towards black people because it reduces them to one sound, as if blackness only exists in the form of a hood accent or internet manufactured black accent. And here's the kicker.
That's crazy to be saying that, honestly, that's the craziest thing. He's black acting. Man, dude, I've never seen such racism since back in the segregation days.
Like, if you didn't know who was voicing the character, if you never saw their face, you probably wouldn't have a problem with it. It only becomes an issue once people find out the actor's ethnicity. That means it's not really about the authenticity of the performance, it's about gatekeeping. and it's leaving no room for nuance or fairness. And the irony is that it seems as though white actors are set up to fail by default, while black actors are allowed to move freely between character types. And that is not the equity that people seem to be championing for. What it really is something that people don't want to admit, and it's basically racial bias, but you're hiding under this banner of justice or activism. And
I'm gonna be honest with you, this whole activism thing, or this weird like, oh no, we're protecting the colored people. I feel like this is like the most racist thing I've ever heard in my entire life, to be honest. This is straight up just racism.
Anyway, the creator's reply to this comment doesn't seem to be in good faith either, because he says, "It is surprising to me that with all the data about racism in this industry, people can't see past themselves." Now, I'm not going to say that no racism exists whatsoever in any industry. Of course, you have to be...
Imagine how much work the probably not many black German BAs would have to do if sticking by that rule.
Realistic, but the answer is just as bad as the original comment, because it doesn't address the faulty logic or hostility that the comment makes or the comment displays. It just seems as though he's doubling down on it, and instead of challenging the idea that black characters are only valid if they sound one certain way, which is a stereotypical black, or pointing out the obvious exaggeration in the claim of the commenter, he leans on a vague catch-all excuse about data and racism in the industry, and that kind of rhetoric doesn't help fix anything. All it does is feed into the racism already baked into the comment by validating it as if it were grounded in truth, which says a lot about the creator. And it serves to promote this victim mentality where the narrative is less about actual barriers and more about insisting that there must be a problem even when the evidence doesn't support it in that case. In other words, it's about wanting victim status for the sake of having it, because victimhood itself has become the centerpiece of the argument. And how does that help the black community at all? The real issue isn't that opportunities don't exist, it's that the way these points are being presented is very sloppy and overblown and self-contradictory and honestly kind of fear-mongering. By constantly framing things as evidence of oppression without backing it up, the creator ends up reinforcing the very division
That's what I was wondering. I was like, where are they getting these statistics or so about, like, you know, the whole oppression thing, or so that like black people are not voice acting, you know, enough people or so in the voice acting scene, and blah 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 and all this other shit, you know. That's what I'm wondering. I was like, where are you getting this from? That's my question to ask. Is like, where do you get the numbers from this, you know? I'm like, it's totally not true, because they've been there. Like these voice actors have been there for quite some time, you know. That's why I just don't understand. It just doesn't make any sense.
Claiming to fight against. But taken together, these replies suggest that the creator is less interested in honest debate than in preserving his narrative. And when faced with reasonable or even valid criticism, he sidesteps them with broad, unsubstantiated claims. So in case you're wondering, what is the definition of acting in bad faith? Bad faith is basically presenting a conversation as though it's about truth and fairness, while in practice, shutting down dissent and refusing to engage with specifics. If this were a genuine attempt at exposing injustice in the anime industry, you'd think that there'd be solid references to hard numbers, case studies, or even abundant first-hand accounts from black voice actors themselves who are reputable in the community. It's always, oh, there's all this data about racism in the industry, but people saying things like this never cite what data, where it came from, or how it applies specifically to anime dubbing in this case. That's not how honest discussion works. If you're the one making...
when you start throwing facts and actual logic or so at these people, they completely like shut down, you know? They just literally completely shut down. They're like, no. They literally put their they're like their fingers in their ears, and they literally say, no. That's literally what they are. Man, dude, these are literally people where their mama literally said no to them, you know? Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Where the data? I don't know where the data at.
A claim, then the burden of proof is on you. For me personally, I don't see any hard evidence of what he's saying.
They can try calling me that, but I know for a fact they won't succeed.
So naturally, I don't believe the claim. Funny enough though, when I actually looked this up, you know what came up in the top search results? This guy's video. I specifically searched for black anime voice actors, no equity. thinking that if there were other Black anime voice actors out there and there was a copious amount of them making these complaints, you'd get more than just this very video that I'm talking about or responding to. And the only real thing I found was his content. Another thing I found under that with the top search results was, funny enough, a commentary video about a year ago, which was calling out a hypocritical East Asian voice actor. That actor had been pushing for roles to be segregated, arguing that people who look like the characters should voice them, but then turned around and got upset when he himself was only offered roles tied to his own ethnicity or nationality. And honestly, that's no different from what this creator I'm responding to is doing now. Also, on a side note, if anyone is wondering, because people don't usually look into the
voice actor demographics and statistics in the US,
nuance or the reasons why behind something.
29.2% of the voice actors are women, and 70.8% are voice actors are men.
Because they exist in the city, and
they should have put me. They should have put me on the female side. It'd be 30%, to be honest, chat.
Racial demographics in their small city, they believe that it extends to the world around them, and it doesn't. So to answer, why do you often see white voice actors getting these roles more, or why do they seem more common if they are chosen to dub certain things? It might feel like the white actors dominate the industry. That's because they do. But in the US, white people make up the majority of the population. In datausa.io, it says here the 5 largest ethnic groups in the United States are white or non-Hispanic, or specifically white non-Hispanic, 58.2%, sorry. Black or African American non-Hispanic, 12%. 2 races, including other, Hispanic, 6.11%. Other Hispanic, 6.11%, and Asian non-Hispanic, 5.75%. This information...
Yeah, of course. I don't understand why people get mad when they get a character of their own ethnicity. Because if someone of a different ethnicity gets that role, everyone gets angry. Why they didn't cast someone of the same ethnicity? Maybe I'm dumb. Well, for some apparent reason, like I said many times or so, it's some stupid thing or so that they try to push or so, trying to segregate characters or so. But then when it happens to them, they start getting all pissy and getting mad and everything. And I'm like, that's literally what you said a while back. But then now it's happening to you. Now you don't like it anymore because it's affecting your pockets or so with your money and everything. So it's kind of like...
is also available on census.gov. But yeah, because the US white people make up the majority of the population, that naturally extends the pool of voice actors. And here on Zippia.com...
Even then, on top of that, America, you know, used to be mostly white. So, shocker, isn't it? Damn.
Idol voice actor demographics and statistics in the US, we'll see down here that 70.8% of voice actors are men. You scroll down a little bit more, and we look at ethnicity, and the recent breakdown shows that white actors make up around 56.7% of all voice actors, with Hispanic or Latino actors at about 16.5%. So that's something to consider as well. And the other thing to consider, which people often don't talk about, voice acting isn't just about having a voice and someone knocks at your door and says, here you go, here's a voice acting job for free. No, it's about being...
So you gotta increase them numbers, get the Hispanic and African American representation up. Okay, buddy.
Willing to pursue it. When I was looking for gigs and stuff like that, I took a job with voice acting because I can do different voices. I did it for a short period of time. I've done narration for other YouTubers. I like doing my own stuff, audiobooks, what have you. And as a woman, I sought that out. But most women that I talk to, they don't seek stuff like that out. I've also complimented men more so, and I've heard other women compliment men based on their voice, their reading voice, a lot more than you see women being complimented on their voices. So you first have to have the willingness to pursue it and have access to auditions or training, or just being plugged into the right networks. And it is...
I believe Ben Starr talked about this as well. Voice acting isn't just talk and have a mic. You need to do facial expressions or even the motion of the character to give your voice and feel of the emotions. Yeah, of course. I know all of this stuff. I've done voice acting. I already know all of this shit. Like, I know this shit like the back of my hand. I've been studying voice acting for quite a long time, so
much easier to do that now than it was in the past. If white people are overrepresented in the industry, part of that is because more of them take an interest, and so you see that reflected in where they are. Maybe in the past, they were gatekeeping because there was more racial bias back then, and I'm not saying there isn't any now whatsoever, but this is one of the best times to be alive in terms of diversity, and I'll get to why later, because we're seeing the complete antithesis to people saying that black people aren't getting roles. Anyway, back to the subject matter. If you want people to take your arguments seriously, you need to bring the receipts. Otherwise, you're just asking everyone to trust your word while you accuse them of not seeing past themselves. Without clear sources, all his talk about data is nothing more than empty filler. And to people from the outside, especially if this is the first video they're watching from you, it kind of seems like you're dodging the responsibility to back up what you're saying. And that is a hallmark of acting in bad faith, or can be seen as that. You're posturing as if your position is unassailable and you refuse to actually substantiate it. And that's why people will say it kind of makes it difficult to trust that his concern is truly for equity's sake or for the art form, and it kind of appears more like a performance designed to provoke outrage or race bait and not a sincere effort to actually address the actual problem. Another comment on the creator's video states, "But you ain't seeing people shout at black voice actors for voicing the white characters." That's a fair observation. If black talent were frequently being lambasted for voicing white characters, it would be visible in public discourse.
Yeah.
I mean, at the rate at which people are saying it's happening the other way around.
With all the drama in the VA community, all this unnecessary friction accomplishes is just gonna make this profession a lot more cutthroat. I just wish VA was back to the way it was, where, you know, they judge you by your voice, not judge you by your skin or the way how you look, or if you look like my fucking ex or something, you know. That's I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. I really don't care, you know. It's about the voice. Can you pull the character off? Yes or no? That's it, you know.
Yet in reality, that backlash is almost non-existent. The only time we've seen it crop up recently is as a kind of reaction to the inequality when people complain about white actors voicing non-white characters, but the double standard is those same voices who say, oh, only a black person should play a black character or voice a black character, they suddenly go radio silent when a black actor voices a white character or any other ethnicity. So that's why people are more outspoken about it right now, because it seems as though the outrage is selective, and it exposes that the argument isn't really about equity. And it seems more like it's grounded in superiority or gatekeeping. And what is the creator's reply to this? Actually, they do. It literally happens very often. Donde?
No.
Where?
Where?
Aside from the allowance that I gave before all of this, where was it happening on the same level of the outrage that we see?
I would love to see where this is at, to be honest. Show it to me.
When it's done the other way around. There's no widespread evidence.
I don't think he's rage baiting. He has a twisted version of equity where it's mainly benefits for black people. That's why. That's the only problem. These specific people with that specific mindset in general should never have power. Never have power, because if you give them power, so that's what they're gonna do.
No viral controversy.
Their twisted mind is just gonna warp
no
the entire industry.
Backlash. The problem I find with these kinds of perceptions and people...
And take a look at what's been happening in the comic book industry as well, and then so forth, and then so forth, and then so forth, and then so forth.
Broad stroking issues like this is that it breeds a victim mentality. And if the person having such perceptions already possesses a victim mentality, it's understandable why they would know nothing outside of the mentality that they exist in, and so they project it onto everyone else. It serves to position his own hurt or frustration as the baseline for everybody else, even though, as I pointed out, there is nothing stopping black voice actors from building a career. We've got voice acting platforms like ACX, social media like TikTok and YouTube, and fan community engagement are open to anyone with talent and initiative. As a matter of fact, it's not only open to people who have talent, it's open to lots of people who don't have talent, and they still make it. Yep. There are many popular black creators whose voices and performance skills have earned them a substantial fan base and industry recognition. Even the creator himself, who claims systemic barriers, has achieved visibility and success through these same channels that I'm speaking about. That's a very powerful example of opportunity. I don't see any exclusion there at all, or else we wouldn't be seeing your video. To frame things as if black voice actors are uniquely blocked only works if we ignore the existing evidence, and it dismisses those who have succeeded as exceptions rather than proof that equity is possible. Like I said before, show me the evidence, because all I've seen is the contrary, and it's that black voice talent is increasingly visible and embraced. In long-running shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons, and I know these are based in America, but still, roles once held by white actors were deliberately recast with black actors or other non-white actors. For example, Mike Henry, who was white, has played Cleveland Brown on Family Guy. He's the one who said, I love this character, but hell, non-white characters should play non-white.
I love this character, Henry wrote, but persons of color should play persons of color. It's been an honor to play Cleveland on the Family Guy for 20 years. I love this character, but persons of color should play this color. Therefore, I will be stepping down from the role. Dude, Jesus Christ. Ay, ay, ay.
White characters, essentially. Or The Simpsons, recasting all non-white roles to actors of matching backgrounds. Now, these changes were made voluntarily, and they acknowledged, as I showed you, as per their claims, that it was necessary for authentic representation, not as responses to backlash against black talent. Now, no matter what your opinion is on that particular...
Yeah, I remember Mike got replaced by a YouTuber that made Cleveland Browns VA skits. Wait, are you talking about Azers? Or are you talking about you're talking about this guy, right? I think I know who you're talking about. Is it this guy? Because he's the one that does the Cleveland Brown thing. I think this is the one you're talking about. Yeah, that's the dude. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember this guy. He doesn't do shit on this channel anymore. He's completely gone. So he replaced him. Damn, that's crazy, to be honest, because of the whole freaking ethnicity skin color thing. That's wild to see that, actually. They haven't posted anything, right? He was a good dude, I'll be honest with you. Sad that he left. He completely left YouTube and everything, you know? Same thing happened on the show Central Park. Christian Bell gave up a role for a kid who was half black, half white. Jesus Christ.
This shows that the industry is showing that barriers can be dismantled, even though I think they kind of overcorrected in such a way. But black voice actors do have roots to success and visibility, and that is progress. But it's been happening for quite some time. It didn't take something far out there and outlandish or triggering for it to happen, because they've been in the industry for a long time for those that did choose to pursue it. And you see, this is why context matters and why making fictional claims like this actually end up harming the discourse in the community. Because when someone frames arguments around imagined or exaggerated oppression, for example, if someone's like, oh, that person is a literal racist, just because the person decided to fire you for slapping them and you just so happen to be a different color than them, that is exaggerated oppression, and it has two negative effects.
Yeah.
Number one, it undermines legitimate issues. Saying barriers are well documented kind of loses credibility when claims are very vague and about things that aren't happening. And the second thing is the fact that it discourages proactive engagement. If people believe the system is rigged against them, why would they even bother trying? Why would they even bother engaging? Why would they want to? It causes them to see themselves as a victim and completely discounts that the path forward involves skill, visibility, and community, all of which many black creators are already using effectively. This creator included.
And young creatives of color are specifically set up to fail. The stupid deadlines that have anime producers and casting directors so overwhelmed, for most shows, auditions aren't even held. But when they try to fix it with equitable casting, Some people call it stupid while ignoring all of these things.
So one other flaw in the creator's argument is the narrow focus on anime as though it represents the entire entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Even if one could argue that black representation in anime dubbing is uneven, it's kind of dishonest to take the single niche and generalize it as proof that black creators are being set up to fail. Doing that completely ignores the overwhelming evidence of black success and visibility across entertainment and media more broadly. By the way, I looked into the article here that he was showcasing, and this has nothing to do with black people or auditions. Yes, it did have.
Of course it doesn't. You think he's gonna do that or so?
Have an unhealthy work culture, which they were mentioning here. That seems to be a different kind of problem. So I'm not really sure why this specific article was shown in regards to that very statement he was making at that moment in time. Anyway, going back to the evidence of black successful artists, we've got black actors and musicians, comedians, and performers that have thrived for decades in every other area of the arts, from blockbuster films, comedy, chart-topping music, acclaimed stage performances, television. Black talent has been not only present but central to cultural growth. In voice acting itself, countless black performers have built lasting careers.
Why do you guys think I don't bother going? That's probably a TikTok. That's probably what it is or so. Why do you think I don't go on TikTok? Because I don't like listening to these kinds of people. These people are literally crazy. They're delulu, and honestly, why would I even waste my time listening to this when I can literally listen to this person here, this YouTube channel, a 30-minute video of my own two opinions about the subject itself, and literally discuss the actual logical problems of, like, you know, of what's wrong with other people. Like, this person brings in like actual facts, links, websites, and statistics on all of this stuff, compared to that one other person who literally makes a 1-minute video spitting out nonsense with no source to back it up, you know? Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Only TikTok stuff I get sent is cat videos.
There's like Phil
cat
Lamar,
videos is
Cree
fine.
Summer, Kevin Michael Richardson, Zeno Robinson, and Iris Quinones, and many more like I mentioned before, and that's only within one niche. And we're not talking about TV and movies. We're not talking about countries in Africa or around the world as if America is the only place. Now, he might just be even talking about America, but that's not even a good enough example, because there are so many opportunities here. To flat out pretend these contributions don't exist is very dishonest, and it makes it seem as though you're selectively cherry picking a corner of the industry to fit a grievance narrative. Once again, what makes the creator's position especially weak is that he himself is proof of opportunity. By building an audience, producing content, and making his voice heard, he has already achieved visibility and influence. If systemic barriers were as insurmountable as he seems to be suggesting, he wouldn't have been able to grow his platform in the way he has. This contradiction undermines his argument. He is both an example of black creative success, and yet he seems to be insisting that success is near impossible. The creator himself, Tony Weaver Jr., is an author. I'll be honest, I've never heard of this book or webcomic, but
I've never heard of him either, to be honest. Well, granted, I don't really follow any, like, famous Hollywood people or just famous people in general. Not my cup of tea. Their lives, me knowing about their lives has nothing to do with me, so. Is he self-inserting? Could be. I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Point is, he's clearly found success. Mans has got close to 1 million followers on TikTok, probably just as much or more on other platforms. That alone shows he has reach, influence, and opportunity.
Yep,
so I want to close this out by saying, yes, I'll always leave room for the possibility that I'm completely wrong. But based on the evidence we do have, or the lack thereof, this looks very much like a manufactured victim claim. The reality is that Black actors do have opportunities. The platforms are there, the audiences are there, and the success stories are out in the open, even with Tony Weaver Jr.'s own community. The focus shouldn't be on imagined oppression propped up by fear-mongering. And it's always the people who are like super successful or feel as though they are, or they gotten success from that very thing they're complaining about, that are fear-mongering everybody else. The focus should be celebrating the real representation that already exists, encouraging aspiring talent to step into the space and to pursue it, tell people it exists, which he probably is doing, and tackling actual disparities with clarity and not exaggerating all of this hype around a victim mentality, because that's how it comes across to many people, and the comments are proof of this. Whether they completely disagree with you or they completely agree with you, you can't really win in this situation because either side does not look good. Disagreements flat out mean you're completely wrong, and the people who agree with you are basically agreeing that everything is stacked against them, and that will not encourage or motivate people to want to push further into that space that you are reaping the benefits from, or at least in some way indirectly. But I don't know what I'm talking about. That's just my opinion.
No, she's not wrong at the end of the day, to be honest. Like, honestly, the whole VA industry, on at least for like the American side or so, is it's just a laughable joke at this end. Like for a fact, you know, that specific like industry itself is just literally an entire shit show. You know, especially what happened recently with the whole like AI thing too as well, and then like the fucking thing or so about like segregating or so roles or so for like if you don't have a certain skin color you shouldn't be voice acting that character. It's the most ridiculous thing. But then when it happens to them, right, the people who are like proactively pushing that actual shit itself, when that actually comes bite them back in the ass or so, that they can't voice any of those characters because they are not white or they are not black or so, then they get pissed off and everything, and it's just kind of like, well, you reap what you sow at the end of the day. So the NAVA is fucked around too much now. Now most of their work is getting outsourced other English speaking countries. Yeah, because like America is not the only English speaking country. Like, it's not. And this weird mentality or so, people's like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, English speaking, blah 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 blah. No, America is not the only one. Okay. They can easily go get someone who also speaks English in a different country that has an accent or so, and it fits perfectly for it. Then they're definitely gonna get the role, you know. Especially with Jacob Takanashi. He got the role or so for the Genshin Impact thing, and then he got fucking bombarded or so on that situation. But he doesn't know jack shit what the fuck is happening. What's happening in the American side of VA industry, because that has nothing to do with that, because he lives in Japan. So like he's part of the JP voice acting industry. Same thing when it comes to the Europeans. It belongs to the European voice acting industry. Same thing with the whole Spain and Italy. They're all in their own specific zone, you know? This whole thing that the Americans are so trying to get that whole dumb thing about the monopoly thing or so in general for the voice acting industry is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Thank God it failed too as well, because Jesus, would have been a lot worse if it was actually pushed to the limit. But yeah, that's why personally, like, you know, if I ever like, you know, if I own like my own like I guess you could say my voice acting booth or so, you know, I definitely will definitely hire people who fit the role of the actual character, not just because, you know, oh, this person's Mexican, we got to get a Mexican person in here and have them speak taco, you know. Just makes no fucking sense. But it requires them to think, and you know, they don't think, only parrots lines. I don't know, it's just so stupid because they wanted to get a monopoly on that shit, and I just thought it was so fucking stupid in general. Tacos speak, yep. Tacos speak, yep. That's why I personally, like I said, when I get my own, like, you know, gaming studio later down the line, well, not later than like, but far off into the future or so, definitely inside the studio itself, I'm gonna be putting a voice acting booth in there, and we'll hire people carefully or so to making sure that they fit the role for the character itself. But yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. Like I said, this is just my personal opinion of what I think about it. I think personally the American side of the VA industry is an actual joke, because they have completely destroyed their reputation in the voice acting, like overall in the entire world voice acting industry. So like even the Chinese knows about like the English voice acting scene and literally is clowning on American voice acting industry. So I'm like, it's well deserved. That's what they decided to do. You know, it's like that definition: fuck around and find out. You know, they fucked around too much and they completely shat on their entire, like, they literally fucking shat on their entire fucking industry, and they think that the English VA industry is a fucking joke, you know? And it's well deserved at the end of the day. They completely botched their reputation, and honestly, I don't personally care, you know? Like, if I could, like, I can technically put on a fake European accent too as well, you know? Like, I can put on like a, you know, I can like make accents, and I can literally go voice act in those specific places, you know? But yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video. And yeah, hopefully one day I'll get back into voice acting. And peace.